Meeting will come to order, please. The notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act for this meeting have been satisfied. Would you please turn off electronic equipment as we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Attention, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Johanna, call the roll, please.
Mayor Becker,
Here.
Commissioner Amadeo,
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg,
I'm here.
First item on the agenda is we are about to approve a proclamation for Knockout Opiate Abuse Day. Dawn, would you read that for the record, please?
Certainly. This proclamation is Knockout Opioid Abuse Day, dated October 6, 2018. Whereas New Jersey is in the midst of a life-threatening opioid abuse epidemic, and whereas the Partnership for a Drug-Free New Jersey has designated October 6, 2018 as Knockout Opioid Abuse Day, an initiative with a dual purpose: to educate families of the addictive qualities of opioid pain medications and their link to heroin abuse rates in New Jersey, and communicate to physicians information on safer prescribing messages found in the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines for prescribing opioids, which include considering alternative therapies, setting realistic treatment goals with patients, and discussing with patients the pros and cons of opioids. And whereas the State Senate and General Assembly jointly resolved that October 6 shall be permanently designated as Knockout Opioid Abuse Day in New Jersey in order to raise awareness about the dangers of and the link between opioid abuse and heroin addiction, and to educate healthcare providers, community leaders, state lawmakers, and members of the public about the opioid abuse epidemic and its effects throughout the state of New Jersey and across the country. And whereas Join Together Atlantic County supports initiatives designed to raise awareness about opioid abuse in New Jersey and take steps to prevent addiction, therefore be it resolved that October 6, 2018 be recognized as Knockout Opioid Abuse Day in Margate City, New Jersey. Signed by the Mayor and Commissioners.
Is there a motion to approve that proclamation?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Mayor Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo,
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg,
Yes.
As there are no items for discussion in that part of the agenda, we will move to department head reports. Dan, why don't you start today?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Not a whole lot to report on the fire department. We're still steadily, response call volumes still are increasing. We're still approximately 20% over 2017. Just one big announcement: we have National Fire Prevention Week, which starts October 7th and runs through October 13th. We have some flyers and handouts here. We'll be visiting all of our schools and some different community centers, the senior citizen, and some other places this week. And fire prevention's not just 1 week of the year, it's every day. So if anybody ever needs anything from the fire department, smoke detector, a fire safety inspection, anything of that nature, please give us a call, 609-822-5562. We'd be happy to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Good job. Doran? Rich?
Dan, I have a question of you relative to fire safety in the house, which is probably close to your heart. How often should people, I know people use their dryer frequently, and with respect to cleaning the dryer, people do clean the lint from the lint container that's in all the dryers, but then there's the hose that goes, and hoses go in short ones and long ones, and sometimes go through attics and all kinds of things. Is there any guidance you can give people, being that you're talking about fire safety?
I wish I would have had it. I brought, at the last meeting, I had a flyer just for that, but I will get it to Dawn and we will get it up on the website as well. But recommendation is at least to get your ductwork cleaned at least once a year. It's recommended also to not only just when you pull out your lint trap, but look inside there and take a vacuum and get out. There's always loose pieces. I find it in my dryer every couple weeks, and I either grab a hanger and get it out, or I get a small vacuum attachment and vacuum it out. But this happens frequently, and what Rich was referring to is back in 2014, we had a dryer fire at my house, and we were out of our house for 9 months. So it's not something you want to deal with, trust me. But please, if there's anything we can do to assist any of our residents, and like I said, we do have a flyer. I will email it to Dawn at post of the meeting to get that information up, and it gives a whole, list of things that can be done for that specifically. And I have some other topics I'll forward to her as well. But yeah, just be careful and be safe. And if there's ever a question, call the fire department.
Thank you, Jan. Rich, thank you. Dawn?
I'm just going to offer a brief update on the efforts we've made to increase resident awareness and interaction since the beginning of the year. As all of you know, but as residents may not know, when I arrived in Margate in January, the mayor and commissioners specifically asked me to look at ways to update our existing communication methods and see what we could do to create some additional contact with residents and take some of the resources we already had in place and maybe make them a little more user-friendly. That included, we started immediately doing a redesign on the website, and then moved on to the Facebook page. So the Facebook page actually was able to be up and running first. We did that so that we could answer questions in real time, in time for the Memorial Day beach openings, because at the time we had so many questions from residents and second homeowners and potential tourists who were wondering if their favorite beaches were going to be in a condition for them to visit and how everything looked. And it gave us an opportunity to post pictures and, like I said, answer questions real time, and it was really helpful. So a lot of mornings, a couple of mornings every week, assorted residents probably will see the person, namely me, running around on the beach in clothes that don't look very beach worthy, trying to get interesting shots. It's also an opportunity for us. I usually try to meet once a month with Sustainable Margate, with the Margate Business Association. I'll try to, if not meet in person, keep in contact with some of the other groups and pass along their information as well. Put special events on that might be of interest to both tourists and locals and residents, and remind them to attend all of these things that make Margate special. Like I said, we then, by the time June 1st came around, we had made significant upgrades and actually relaunched a new website. So same web address as people previously may have used. And we had an existing website, and actually, as a point of pride for Margate, I think people should realize that Margate was one of the first in the area, in fact was the first in the area, to have a website for residents to be able to get agendas, see information. That website just kind of aged out and it needed a little refreshing, and we went through a lot of work through the last several months to get a fresher look, to get new pictures posted on it, to make sure that buttons and text were of a size that were more comfortable for senior citizens, to make popular pages and important news items pop up first. And on top of that, try to balance both news about things that we needed to have legal postings, and that will always be the area for legal postings, by the way, just so everyone always knows where to look. It's always going to be the Margate City website for all of your legal postings. So you can get agendas there, you can get copies of ordinances there, proposed ordinances, you can find copies of your master plan, you can find anything that's the current business and those postings. But in addition, you'll also be able to find out construction news. For instance, this morning, both website and Facebook page, we were posting information about the Winchester Avenue construction, and that project's going to be going on for about 6 months. So there's detours to be considered and things of that nature. So all of that information you'll be able to access there. And we're really happy with how the new site came out. And like I said, it's a lot more user-friendly. In addition to that, your existing website also had on it, and I get probably 7 to 10 of these requests in a week's time, depending on what the subject is going on. You have a resident contact form. So basically, a resident can go on that contact form, write down a question, make a comment, basically anything that you want to say that requires a response or is just an offering for the good of the order. And that gets distributed to the commissioners, and it gets distributed to your business administrator, and it gets distributed to me. If it requires a response, I do whatever research is necessary to answer your question accurately, and we get back to you. We try to do it within 24 hours. Sometimes it might be a day or two, depending on when your submission came in. But it's another means for you to be able to get information and get a prompt response directly from the source. We also added, just a couple of weeks ago, we added a quarterly newsletter. I actually put a stack of them on the ledge here if anybody wants to grab one. It's intended to be more of a digital product, so it's 8 pages of information, but because the topics were very timely and they were a matter of interest, the commissioners authorized us to get a stack of them printed, and you'll be able to find those starting tomorrow at the City Hall building and a couple of other areas like the Pavilion and other places where we service large groups of residents. If you do not want or need a paper one, like I said, you can find it as an attachment to several Facebook posts, and in addition, it's an attachment to the municipal website. Let's see, the municipal calendar, a new calendar for 2019. That's a product of the Margate Business Association and the city as a joint effort. That calendar comes out to everyone annually, and I know that in this digital age, people tend to use, the calendars in their phone or the calendars, their Google calendars or whatever, but there's still a significant part of the population who wants the paper calendar that they put on the refrigerator and get their information from, and it still remains popular in Margate. So like I said, by the end of December, the 2019 calendar will be out from the Margate Business Association with the city's contribution of information to that. And that calendar always has a very, very complete list of every office represented here, police, fire, zoning, direct contact numbers for all of those individuals. So if you found that you had questions or information that you wanted to offer to any of those departments, you can find that information on your municipal calendar, besides just all photographs of the great activities that Margate has going on practically every month. Let's see. We also have a robocall system. That robocall system is part of what you have subscribed to that will dial your cell phone for emergency information, flooding, storms, things like that. I believe that it was in use for Superstorm Sandy more than it had been previously. So you don't hear about that system a lot, but you opt into it. Coming up in the near couple, I would say probably in the next couple of weeks, we're actually going to put some ability for you on Facebook and on the website for you to opt in again if you're not on the robocall system. And in addition, in a separate action, to be able to submit your email address for something that we have in process as our next step to progress forward and still be able to give you additional information, which is going to be once or twice a month, just a real brief, hopefully 1 minute or less read on whatever's happening in Margate that month. So, like I said, you'll be able to opt in, subscribe by providing your email address, and we'll put together a brief summary of information. It could be construction projects that are taking place or a special event that's happening in the community in that 2-week block. So everybody should look out for that and tell a friend if you would like to be able to opt in and you know of others who want to opt in and be able to get those additional contacts made. Let's see. In addition to that, there's the more traditional things, such as obviously you're always invited to attend commissioners meetings. You're always invited to attend planning board meetings. those notices, agendas, dates, and times always appear on the municipal website. You also, if you were uncertain or you couldn't locate them there for any reason, you always can call any general information number for the city, and almost any of us could share that information for you and give you that. There's also a posting board at City Hall. So for those who really, really like to have the paper form, and perhaps you're going in, you're paying your taxes, you're doing some other business, you're going to the building department in City Hall, you can always stop at the board. Copies of resolutions, ordinances, proclamations, things of that nature will be posted there so that people could read them and take note of them just as they're in the building for other business. So, like I said, we've been taking some of your more traditional ways of communicating, trying to enhance them as much as possible, make them look more attractive, make them more user-friendly, make them more available to you, and make you aware that some of these things have been here for a very significant period of time, and other things are new to you. But there is no reason why somebody at the click of a button, no matter where you are, whether you're in town, out of town, you're a local resident, you're a second homeowner, or you're just an interested party from somewhere else, there's no reason why you can't click a button, hear the audio from a meeting, or find out practically any other piece of information. And if all else fails, and you still cannot get the information that you are looking for, use your phone, and you can call, and any of us would be happy to give you an update verbally. Thanks.
Thank you, John. John, you're to be commended for a great job. It's really a big improvement. Chief Wilson.
I have nothing to report, just want to remind you, Latour, the Down Beach is this Saturday, the rain date of Sunday. We're ready for that.
Mr. Deeney.
I received some information today, which is annually we do get this information from our tax assessor and from the County Board of Taxation. And I'm pleased to report that our tax assessor, Jim Mangan, reported to Commissioner Bloomberg and myself that the total added assessments for 2018 are $35,125,700. It's interesting because 2 years ago, in 2016, they were $35,104,000. So within $19,000, the number is very, very consistent. Last year, 17, the year in between, we had a booming year, the best ever in terms of assessments. It was a total last year of $43 million. But for the last several years, it's been about 35,000. So it was 35 million in 2016, 36 million in 2015, 29 million in 2014, 30 million in 2013. Unlike many, many towns in New Jersey, this consistent 1% or just under 1% of growth in Margate is a healthy, healthy sign of the values in Margate. I always have liked to say in this business that we're in local government that the vast majority of the clients that we serve are homeowners, and whether they're full-time or part-time residents, they're homeowners. And often the largest investment that people have is their homes. And so these are positive signs with respect to the investments that our residents have in this community. And I think it's a good sign for the year ahead as well. We have building activity which picks up in September all the time, and we have a number of building permits and demolition permits in existence. Obviously that creates other kinds of problems in the city. I think we've gotten a much better handle on it in terms of the actual construction sites are being maintained better through enforcement of our construction office. Jim's not here today because he had a shoulder operation earlier today. But he's done a much better job, and we've helped him by making the area of responsibility that he has, the construction site itself, that is from the curb line in on the private property. Our police chief has assumed the responsibility for the last 6 months in the police department of other code enforcement, miscellaneous codes, plus everything that happens curb to curb in the streets. And we had, I think, a great season where there was much less construction trailers, construction debris dumped in the street, whether it be material ready for the construction, and we required them to be placed on site, not placed in the street. There's no loads of stone and other items. And so while there is construction activity and while there are problems still associated with new construction for neighborhoods, we're conscious of it, and through our communication office, we would like to hear about potential problems, and we'd like to get on them quickly. And so there is going to be construction, which is a good thing, and we're working hard at the idea of neighborhoods being livable neighborhoods. So that's my report from the assessor.
Thank you, Rich. Ed, JJ, do you guys have anything to report?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Roger?
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to point out that we did meet with people from the water park last week. They already own 2 parcels of land, or water, covered land, and they were making settlement on that day or the day after for 2 additional parcels for a potential water park. The total amount of area that they would own would be 20,550 square feet. We didn't get to see exactly what they wanted to put in there, but we kind of went over the zoning, which is very limited from the city's perspective because it's all over the water, and they still need DEP permits, and it is considered a water-dependent use. So I just wanted to put it out there that we did meet with them. Once they make application, they'll be advertised and publicized as required. I have nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you, Roger.
Mayor?
Yes.
I too was at that meeting. Roger and I represented the city. It was very, very informal. There were no plans. There were discussions of what had to happen. And the key things that I took from it are that they have to go to the DEP. They have to come to the planning board. But the operation, as it was explained to me, the intended operation would be totally seasonable, July and August, and maybe some parts of June. It would be daytime activities only. The hours would be 9 to 6. They'd be out of there at 6 o'clock at night. And it consists of blow-up. It's like a playground on water. They're blow-up rafts, if you will, and slides, if you will, where you can go onto these slides from the water, access it from dock areas, get on these and jump in the water. It's as simple as that. It's no different than what you would have in pools or whatever, but it does require them to go through the approval processes that they're going to go through if they make an application. They have not yet made application to us. But we wanted to report because there were rumors earlier in the year that we had been meeting with them. This is the first meeting that we've had, and I wanted to go to it so that I could tell you directly that that's what it's intended.
Rich, where's the location?
I think Roger can precisely tell you.
Right next to Leeds' property,
So between
Heading
which
towards
streets,
Longport.
if we were going to talk about streets?
at Jefferson Avenue splits it in
Jefferson.
half, actually.
Okay,
You okay with that? Mark?
thank you.
You're welcome.
Just wanted to know what
Thanks,
streets.
thank you,
And then,
Rich.
so what's there now? A marina is there now? Nothing's there now.
Marina with slips, but it hasn't been used.
Marina with slips is there now.
One question.
Sure.
Would there be any improvements to the marina?
It was explained to us that all the existing dock facilities and piers would be removed. And they would add floating piers around it like a breakwater. And the equipment that they would bring in would be in the middle of that, protect it with the breakwater.
And contrary to some suggestions, there's no intention for anything other than these rubber raft playgrounds. It's not motorized equipment, boating equipment, no boating of any kind, no water skiing, no water activities, isn't that?
Correct.
That's our understanding.
Thank you, thank you. Marty, okay, any other? John, you all right? Okay. Frank?
Yeah, we're still working out the ball field. We took care of the track out there. We put a few truckloads of stone down and smoothed them out. We also fertilized, seasoned, and aerated the fields. We're still cutting, but we're getting ready for the holiday lighting. We did read the water meters in town. It took 4 days, which was very fast, and we're moving on from there. The past couple of weeks, we fixed 4 water leaks and put in a fire hydrant. Actually, on October 29th and November 2nd, we're going to be flushing fire hydrants in town. And we would like to know if we can get a foam blast on that because it seems to work very well. We're removing and replacing some shrubs in Marvin Gardens at the request of some of the property owners, which was extremely overgrown. We're not removing any trees, we're just removing brush and ornamental grasses. The Parkway fountains, we have to do the repair to one of them, and then we'll be cutting them on, covering them on the week of the 22nd. We're also getting our equipment ready for a public auction. So if anybody has anything, we can put it on gov.com. We have over 13 items in Public Works we're going to put out there. We're actually getting things appraised. We even have some old tractors that are going to bring over $20,000 when we auction them off. So we're looking for a good auction this year. That's all I have.
Frank, thank you. Scott?
Number of things, Mayor and Commissioners. First and foremost, let's start with the Verizon master agreement. You may have seen in the last week or so, we emailed out a draft. I've since explored that. If you'll recall, we brought in the consultant. The consultant helped us draft an ordinance so we could control some of these cell phone, what word would you use? Nodes. And so we get much better service once they're put up. The Verizon agreement is not exclusive just to Verizon. It would be for them, but it wouldn't preclude AT&T or Sprint or anybody else to come in. It was what our consultant recommended. It facilitates the ability for them to come in, make an application to the city. The zoning officer reviews it, would be you, Roger, to make sure it meets the criteria of our ordinance. So with that, I think we should move forward on it. I think we should adopt it. You're in accord with that, right? All right. And so you'll see maybe in 2 weeks we'll have the resolution to adopt it. It's not a money thing. It's a control where and how they place these nodes, and it is to facilitate and make their service better. I guess you're all aware how much Verizon, not just Verizon, all cell phone usage has skyrocketed, especially with the videos and pictures and all that. So this will give us better service from Margate. Right? Anything I missed on that one?
In the agreement itself, it does reference specifically our ordinance and the requirements of the ordinance, so I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's what we wanted. Okay, now, on the zoning change tonight, you have the ordinance coming through. That's the one that the planning board had worked, I don't know, 2 years on, maybe?
Yes.
And various recommendations. It has nothing to do with the hotel overlay. Everybody calm down. There's no hotel, there's no nuclear plants, nothing. It's things like, we want to make sure there's a governor's strip. We want to make sure the setbacks are correct. There's some tweaking of height for FEMA requirements. So it's, and the entire ordinance is, I believe, online, also with the delineated changes, both red and blue. So I hope it is online, right? I know we have copies of it.
Yeah.
So anybody can take a look at it and see, here's what's being added, here's what's being subtracted. And it is something that we've been working on a pretty long time, well over a year, to just really tighten up our ordinance and correct some things that were not working out as good as they should have. So I would urge you to approve that ordinance tonight. Third thing, okay, yeah, absolutely.
Just in your possession tonight is the copy of the resolution from the planning board recommending that it's consistent with the master plan, and also my consistency report.
Very good. That's great. Okay, so the next one will be a topic I have to tell you, I enjoy this. It's history of Margate. It's all our zoning maps. As you know, we recently got served suit. Somebody's challenging the zoning change again for our Bay District. And we had straightened this out in February because, and I see our newsletter references this, our waterfront special district, as you go back through time and look at all the maps, the boundary lines of this district wander all over the place. Some years they're out in the water, some years they're at the face of the bulkhead, some years they're along Amherst Avenue, without any benefit of a specific ordinance that said, why did that line move? We studied it in the past year. An ordinance was approved in February, and the map, and I believe Joe's office corrected that map, so we have an overlay district. What did that do? Well, that meant like people like the Captain Andy's or the donut place or the restaurant or the retail stores were not zoned into being non-conforming uses, but rather were permitted. You'll recall some of our earliest commercial establishments were on the water side on piling of Amherst Avenue. I have the aerial photography from 1920 that shows that. Somehow through the years, as these maps were drawn, I suppose because it was water flowed, they didn't take into account that commercial structures were on top of piling over water flowed area. That's what I think happened, which is why this line changes every time you look at a map. I have about 6 or 7 of them. I'm going to show them to Roger on Tuesday when we meet. We're going to duplicate them. What I'd like to do is not only have them duplicated, but perhaps we can store them somewhere in our computer system, because the maps I was able to locate from the city, some of them are in pretty poor shape. They shouldn't be lost. Maybe give a set to our Historic Society or the library as well. I have 1944. I've got the ones from the early 60s. I got one from 1979, in the 80s, in the 90s. And it really just shows how Margate and the zoning changed, and it developed, and the town grew. At one time, for instance, this whole end was zoned commercial. The whole end, back in the 40s. I found that very interesting. But so there's a little progress there, and I'll keep you updated on that one. Okay, last but not least, I know we may have touched on this before, but we are moving forward with the bulkhead. That's a very big project for us. Contrary to perhaps some misconceptions, Lombardi's was never declared in default by the city. That's certainly an option we have, but there's no need to do that. I think he's moving forward. We think we're optimistic that we're going to have an agreement with Mr. Lombardi. As you know, we inherited this situation. He's had a lease there for, what was the initial term of the lease? It was back in the 80s, I guess at least 25 years or more. No more than that. He's got 18 years left. I think it was a 50-year lease. That 50-year lease obligated him to replace that section of bulkhead where his restaurant and some of his parking is. So we've been trying to get that. In the meantime, the city's gone forward with the other sections of that bulkhead. We do have an application. I think Jim Martell is trying to get us some grant money from the state. Hold your breath on that one, I guess. But nevertheless, those bulkheads do need to be replaced and raised. And part of our ongoing efforts to try to control flooding and make those parking spaces safe. You know, some of them we had to close this summer because of the condition of that bulkhead. So yes, I'm happy to report we're making progress with Lombardi. I think next week we're going to have a draft of a modification and extension of his lease for you to consider. There will be many terms and conditions imposed. We're working on that now. And that's pretty much what I have to report on the bulkhead situation. And anything else I have, we do have some litigation, but we're going to go in closed session later on to talk about that. Okay?
Thank you, Scott. Marty, you got anything?
Just one thing, I want to thank Rich for the report from the assessor's office, and also thank Jim and Mary, Kathleen, with the help of Hank, for the great work that they do in that office. They do it quietly, but they do it very, very well. And we're lucky to have them on board in Margate City. So thank you all. That's all I have, Mike.
Thank you. John?
Yes, Mayor, on a good note, I do want to thank Dawn for all her work and, you know, the way you deliver your message on behalf of the commissioners really, it does a great service to the public, informing them, and we really appreciate the work. And Maury, I got to touch base on the fact that your recommendation of putting hard copies in public places was a great idea, and that production of that newsletter, which I believe will be quarterly, every 3 to 4 months?
At minimum, it'll be quarterly.
Okay.
What we may do is if a particularly, special event, something of, that we'd really like to blast, I may do a digital-only supplemental page that will attach to Facebook, but the production of it in this form will just be quarterly.
Very good, and thank you again, Maury. On another issue, I believe quality of life in our city is very important to all of us. We all live in neighborhoods, and we're all proud of the city and our houses and the way the city of Margate is kept clean by the work of our Public Works Department, whether it's on the beach or in the streets, and with the plantings and the aesthetics to keep our city the beautiful city that it is. We do, upon occasion, have problems. And as Frank had said, we're working in West Drive and in the areas of the Marvin Gardens. Through the years, things have overgrown, and it has created sight angle views for some of our residents who weren't able to back out of their driveway. And that's a quality of life and a safety issue, and we address all those things. Recently, as Rich mentioned earlier, our building inspector, our building code official has had surgery this morning, and I'd asked him to report. I had asked him a month ago to search out and receive quotes for demolition of a property that has been vacant for 6 years, has had work done on it for 2 years during the year 13 and 14, and no work has proceeded since 2014 because our building department brought it up that it was an unsafe foundation after it was built, after the house was lifted. It was an unsafe condition, it wasn't constructed right, and they couldn't proceed with the rest of their construction. The property's known as Block 905, Lot 23, 8 Exeter Court. I wanted the commissioners to know that we did receive 3 quotes for the demolition of the project. We are moving forward, even though yesterday they applied for a foundation repair building permit. But that doesn't preclude the city from moving forward based on the fact of the condition of the property, and we're going to stay on top of it to the point that we know that he'll be able either to continue work, and if that work cannot continue, it's been an eyesore in that neighborhood. I've heard from several of the neighbors through the years, and it's time that we have to proceed. So I wanted the commissioners to be aware that Scott had put them on notice back 2 weeks ago. Am I correct? August.
Well, a number of times.
Number of times. There was 6 violations on property maintenance and complaints for the condition of the property and the unsafe condition. The owner paid all the fines. I've spoken to the tax office. His taxes are up to date. But there's other financial issues there with the state because he faulted on his REM grant. And I believe the state has a lien on the property also, but the value of the land is worth more than what that lien is. So we're going to proceed as we have been, and I just wanted to make Commissioner Blumberg and Mayor Becker aware of the direction we're moving in.
Okay, let's go.
That's it.
Thank you very much. I'll be brief first. Every once in a while, I just like to take a second to thank all our employees who work so hard, kind of make us 3 look good. We've got a lot of dedicated employees who come to work every day and never get any acclamation, and they really deserve it. They make our life very easy. Item number 2, we've been talking about the master plan. The master plan is actually started in 2015.
Yes.
It was October 13th. So we're just about 3 years that's been in work. And third thing, I'd like to recognize all the people who helped us increase our ratables once again. A friend and a wise man once told me one of the most important things that we do as commissioners is to protect your investments. And I think we've done a good job. And thank you for that, Rich. At this point, we will open for public comment. 3 minutes, you may comment on anything that was discussed here this afternoon.
Sewell, 22 West Drive, following up on Mr. Deeney's remarks about increased ratables, 35 million to 43 millions of dollars in new ratables, and yet not one red cent of property relief, property reduction of taxes. Brigantine, one of our barrier islands here, have had three tax reductions. And if you think that you can run in May of 2019 with a bogus reduction in taxes based upon dipping into the reserve rather than cutting spending. And I would look for cutting spending to that white elephant, 13.5 millions of dollars, running this little pet project of nepotism and patronage known as the school district. It's just insane. You had the facts and numbers last time I was here. It's absolutely off the chart to run this school system in that matter. It's totally inefficient, and it violates the mayor's sworn oath for a thorough and efficient education. He took an oath to support the New Jersey State Constitution, and he breaks it each and every year. He has to remember he's bound by that solemn sworn oath. But moving on to more delightful topics is the bogus October 6th Knockout Opioid Abuse Day proclamation. I've never seen anything more hypocritical, more dastardly in my life. Every day is an opioid abuse battle. The numbers are catastrophic. 72,000 deaths last year. If you put that into terms that you can understand, it would be 4 jumbo jets, fully loaded, crashing each and every week. Do you think the FAA would put up with that for a minute? No. But you guys sit here like 3 bumps on a log. I don't see you mounting any fentanyl protest up in Trenton, and you never will, because you really don't give a damn. Because if you look, you'll think hard. Go Google Spirit airline pilot overdoses in Ohio. Not only did he overdose, but his gal pal overdoses too, leaving 4 orphans on the state tax rolls. It's got to stop. As you well know my position on Narcan, it would be more than 72,000 if it weren't for Narcan. I believe in social Darwinism. I believe everybody gets 1 free Narcan. And after that, there are no more free Narcans.
15 seconds, John.
That's an awful fast 3 minutes, Mayor. I'd like to see that clock up there for the next hour. I've got 3 minutes to speak, and I'd like to have all 3 minutes of it. I don't trust your Japanese.
5 seconds, John.
Well, we'll simply say that you're not doing your job so far as the opioid crisis is concerned. But give me an extra second. The way to cure it, and it would take approximately 6 to 7 years, is by inculcating and indoctrinating those students that we're paying a ton of money for, $32,129 per pupil per year, and you're turning out the Zulfi hoaxa crowd, not to our benefit.
Is there any other public comment?
Steve Warner, 103 North Sumner Avenue. I'll be brief. As far as the opioid crisis, how do you protect somebody from themselves? If you can figure out how to do that, then you'll end the opioid crisis. But how do you protect somebody from themselves? Anybody know? I know.
Thank you, Steve.
Hello, Maria Marinelli, 9714 Atlantic Avenue. I'm here today because this change impacts neighborhoods. And it's really frustrating to me because we are under litigation, current litigation with the city in reference to Block 3101, where we have a detaching of a unit to build a single family. We have attached single families, and now the end unit would like to detach and move over and build a single family. So this ordinance is actually impacting that issue.
I don't understand. Could you explain
Yeah.
in a little bit more detail how it impacts?
Well, you're allowing, first of all, it's under, we were supposed to hear this course in May, and I understand that you were not well. So this was actually the last final appeal on this court case. this is the Kevin Iannuzzi lawsuit, and this is actually, was supposed to be, he's actually trying to turn his unit around, face Coolidge Avenue, and build a single family.
Right.
So now you're trying to, this would actually allow him to build, I guess, decks in there and changes the height restrictions. So there's setbacks in there and changes in that will affect this.
Yes, please.
Certainly.
Highly unlikely. We're in the appellate court now. As you know, the lower court denied them the right to do that, create a separate structure on that separate lot. And they have to remain as a part of that development of townhouses. So as far as this zoning change, really don't have anything that directly affects that case or that decision. They still can't build on a single-family lot home, and they can't, it does have to be elevated, but anything new has to be elevated, and just them.
You're changing also
it's anybody.
the variances that you're saying that they, homeowners don't have to go around to get variances for different construction?
No, it doesn't have anything, it has nothing to do with your situation or that project or that building. It's throughout the city. I really don't know how else to answer it, other than, I don't think you're correct. Maybe talk to your lawyer. We can give you a copy of the zoning ordinance. It's on the internet.
But there's not
Everything
enough
that's being
time.
deleted is in red, everything that's being added is in blue. And let somebody who's knowledgeable take a look at it for you. I really don't think it has any impact on
This just
what
came
you're
to us
talking
at like
about.
2 o'clock today, so this was like, there's not
But
enough
well,
time.
what
for
your
this.
concern is,
Yeah.
you don't want him to isolate
Yeah, he
from the
can't.
rest of the structures. It's a
I mean,
multi-unit.
you're changing neighborhoods. I mean, there's.
No, we're not
We're not
changing
changing
any
anything.
neighborhoods.
We're really not.
This ordinance
No.
does not change neighborhoods. What it does, it makes really, in essence, very simple issues that the planning board was faced with in the past. It alleviates that variance. There was a situation where our governor strip, which everybody's aware of, after individuals moved in, they would tear out the grass and put pavers or fill it with concrete.
instead of grass.
We're trying to keep the permeability because of the development as much open space and permeability as possible. The other issues were where there is a pre-existing property, the new property going up, because we live in a city that has basically mostly in an S25 zone, all 40-foot wide lots. And some of those homes were built back in the 20s and 30s that have 3-foot setbacks. So the 40-foot lot comes aboard and wants to build a house, then he has to comply with the 5-foot separation. So instead of being able to buy, because you need 15-foot total, whether it's 7.5 and 7.5 or 5 and 10 on either side, you now have to incorporate in your setbacks that additional 2 or 3 foot from the existing structure. All those variances were granted through the years. None were denied. The purpose of these changes were to allow this to continue without people having to go through the process and come and get a variance. Roger, list some of the others, because I just, off the top of my head, I don't deal with.
I can help you too.
No, let Roger,
Okay.
Roger's got it. Let him list it.
As you mentioned, the one you just talked about was a hardship created by the neighbor, not from the house that's being constructed.
And then what would happen with that 25-foot house, they'd have to go down to 22 or 23 foot. And if you're gonna build on a 40-foot lot, that really restricts you, especially if you wanna have a second home or even a primary home. So, go ahead, continue.
One of the other items is to allow third-floor decks in the beach blocks east of Atlantic Avenue or oceanward of Atlantic Avenue, which, believe it or not, was mentioned in the 2006 master plan, and we're finally applying that. One of the other items is to require a setback from driveways to be at least 1 foot from the property line, where now it's 0.
Right. We
Garages
had
have
problems
to
with
be a
people
foot.
opening their doors into fences on the adjoining property, so now we're allowing that extra foot to give the space. We're moving structures that used to be able to be on a property line that didn't have a window or opening on it, meaning an accessory structure like a garage or shed could be on the property line. No longer, they have to be a foot in, because sometimes the overhangs came and inflicted on the neighbor's thing. These were all minor, in my opinion, minor things that needed to happen to make things flow a little bit better. What else was there?
Are we on point here? That you're,
I understand
what
you're saying.
is your concern?
My concern is that you're just changing, I mean, first of all, this document came to me 2 o'clock today. It's like, how is this even like, this is not part of the resort overlay, because that
No.
document looks different. So
No.
how is this the second reading that you're voting on it if this just came, where was the first reading? When was that?
On the 20th of September. We didn't vote on it. We introduced it on the 20th of September.
Then I went to the planning board on the 27th,
And it was recommended to us. It was in the original hotel overlay. That was all a part of it. And then when we killed that ordinance, we had to reintroduce what we call the housekeeping.
But it's reintroduced and amended, correct?
It's not amended, it's just
it's a new ordinance.
What?
It's a new ordinance.
It's a new ordinance.
It's ordinance 24?
Yes.
Yeah, the hotel overlay zone, everything else was in that original ordinance. But that 17 of 2018 no longer exists. It went back to the planning board. The planning board recommended to us all the other changes that were a part of the master plan review over the past several years. And it finally was compiled between our engineering firm and our planner, Roger McLernan. And we reintroduced it on September 20th as ordinance number 24 of 2018 with the hotel overlay out of the picture, and these were all basically house cleaning issues that needed to be addressed.
For some reason, people do not know about this ordinance, that you're voting on this today.
All those people were here last time.
We had
there was-
200 people in that ordinance.
And not only that, at the planning board meeting on the 27th of October, how many people were in attendance?
Probably like 40 people there.
And it's been on the website since we introduced it. It was prior to our introduction. But I want you to feel comfortable with your concern of the Iannuzzi property, that is not going to be separated. It's not going to become an individual house. That zoning that's been in place for as many years, since 9600 was built in 1973, 74, hasn't changed. All the zoning from Coolidge to Cedar Grove is all the same zoning. There's not a change there. The only thing an overlay would have done would have allowed for condo hotels.
But you still left detached single-family in that zoning, which was kind of like, why would you do that if you're trying to
Because it
increase
existed.
density?
It existed on the other side of
exists.
Atlantic Avenue.
Depends on the size of the property.
Do you know how to go to our website?
Yeah, I've been to the website. Yeah.
Take a look at it.
All right,
Thank
thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, I wanted to address the issue of 8 Exeter Court. Commissioner Amadeo have been in contact.
Your name,
Oh, I'm sorry, Greg Mangle, 7 Exeter Court. I live next door to that debacle. We've been talking for 2.5 years about this moving to demolish the building, and I really want to know when it's going to happen. It's definitely, eyesore is not even close to a good word for it. It's dangerous, you know, there's things coming off the building. I don't need to tell you, you guys have probably all been by it. Mr. Abbott and I have spoken, he's aware. And it just seems that every time the homeowner has, you know, one more chance. And it seems that anytime I reach out to Mr. Amadeo, I say, oh, well, yesterday he just filed for this. That's why this is happening. So nothing has really happened. We all know that. It's been exactly the same for 5+ years. It's, you know, I'm not a builder, but it's not really inhabitable. We've had issues where people have come there to go inside and rummage around. The police have been there a couple of times. We had an incident a few weeks ago where there were some construction workers for another property parked in his driveway, and he came there, and the police had to come for that. And I lived there growing up, and then I bought the house, and I don't think I ever saw the police there. So they've been there twice in 2 years. So it's a problem. And what I would like to know is what's the timing of when we're going to be knocking this down?
Well, I think Scott has to address that.
Okay.
Because Scott's last communication had a timeline on there.
We've given him several deadlines, as you know.
I know.
We've had him in municipal court, how many times, John? 10?
He's been in court at minimal 10 times, but 8 times in reference to property maintenance deplorable conditions. There's a couple other times he's been in our court based on running a business on the vacant property behind his property. He had a trailer there where they had a dog salon. Multiple issues, fines of in excess of $2,000 that were all paid.
Correct. So part of the problem is, he got a loan from the state of New Jersey for FEMA and raised his house.
Right.
State spent over $100,000. We had the state representative down here, so I think you're aware of that.
Yep, sure.
So now we have, it's in foreclosure.
Mm-hmm.
There was a forbearance certificate issued by the state of New Jersey, so they couldn't proceed with their foreclosure.
Okay.
We have over $100,000 lien, in addition to that first mortgage, held by the state of New Jersey as well. And now he has come in again, and what he'll do is piecemeal. He comes in and gets a permit. Now he's getting a permit. Again, I think he's got a contractor and an engineer. So you just can't arbitrarily say to him, we won't let you go after we give you notice to repair, and he comes in and spends the money and brings in a contractor and an engineer. We're gonna go into executive session to come up with a solution. Our construction official has given him notice of intent to demolish. We did get 3 quotes to demolish, but we do have to tread lightly, because if we misstep, then we'll get sued for civil rights violation, or we'll get sued for damage to his home or whatever. So we have to be very careful to not jeopardize the city's position. I sympathize with your point.
I understand.
I understand. I do know that he's been in there in court. I think the court's now hitting him with the maximum monetary fine. And I mean, I think it's $1,500. I know he's been hit with that more than once. So eventually, and I know it's not a good answer for you, but eventually it will be resolved, and that house will either be fixed up or demolished. I know we've got the quotes, and we're moving forward towards demolition of it.
Okay. So when you say tread lightly, is there no way that this can be done? I mean, I guess that's where,
let's say
we've
you go in
kind of
front
had
of
that
the
same
Superior Court judge,
conversation.
and the judge says,
Yeah.
well, wait a minute, he hired a contractor, he hired an engineer. See, what happens when they build his foundation, our construction official failed it.
Right,
Said
that
it
I
was
understand.
deficient, it was inadequate. So now he had the thing where he spent his money on the foundation failed construction. Our own construction official said, you can't continue because you have to fix the foundation.
Right.
Now, he didn't have the money to fix the foundation, because he spent over $100,000 raising the house and fixing the foundation. It's a horrible situation. I'm not saying he's innocent 100%, but he's a victim too. There's no doubt about it. They did a terrible job on his foundation. But we're all victims. You are, your neighborhood, especially you as a neighbor. We are trying to get it resolved. It's a difficult problem.
Mayor, may I?
Go ahead.
What I think what we'll try to do is, in closed session, get a plan moving forward where we're going to have to keep him in a timeline to know it's just not fixing the foundation and it sits there for another 2 years. We can't tolerate that.
Right.
Actually, Commissioner Amadeo and I met with his general contractor yesterday.
Okay.
And laid out a blueprint. This is what we want. You have to do the following. So, but,
Yeah.
you've seen what he does. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem to get done.
Right, right. It's kind of like with the condition of the property, he mows one strip of the lawn. I mean, I don't know what you guys are finding him, but he's not doing anything. You see how overgrown.
I don't know, after you got hit with a
horrible.
couple $1,500 fines, you would think you would at least find a way to
Yeah,
cut
well,
the lawn.
Paying
I'm
his
not gonna
fines.
comment on that.
Okay. We'll keep you involved.
Thank you,
posted.
appreciate that.
Thanks, Greg.
Any other public comment? Is there a motion to close
I'll
public?
move to close public comment.
Second.
Mayor Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo,
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg.
Yes.
We'll take a 5-minute break and we will continue on.
I need a drink.